Welcome to week one of Aligned and Thriving, my three-part series where we delve deeper into a core value. This week's value is connection. So, what is connection? This could be connection to ourselves, connection to our values more broadly, how we connected to others. So those around us, whether it's our family, our friends, our clients, our colleagues, people we encounter in our daily lives, how do we connect with others? When I think about connection, then I also think about the opposite to that, which is disconnection. So often in our really busy lives, we may feel disconnected from those around us and also disconnected from things that are really important to us. We may be in a job or in a profession that we feel is not aligned with our values. For example, if we deeply value a work-life balance and spending a lot of time with our families, but we work in an industry that is demanding that you do overtime quite consistently without any consideration for your family commitments. This impacts your family, then that could be an example of where you may feel disconnected from your core value of family, or even disconnected from your family when you're working unexpectedly long hours in your profession. We may also feel disconnected from our bodies. So, if we're not taking care of our bodies, if we're not trying to do some form of movement every day. If we eat foods we know don't agree with us, I know I've been guilty of that. If there's certain foods that irritate you, but because you love them so much, you may continue to eat them and then you end up suffering later because of it, then you may feel that, disconnect from your body as well. So there's different types of disconnection. And in this video, we'll discuss some examples to help sort of unpack that further. So there are three steps to increasing connection from my perspective. The first one is prepare. One of the ways we can become disconnected with others is if we're distracted. So if we're distracted during a meeting, we might feel unprepared for the meeting. It might be a really important meeting and we didn't read the meeting agenda ahead of time, and we know that there was an action item from last meeting that we were allocated, so we needed to action something and we're not quite sure, we're not feeling confident that we are prepared for that we're prepared going into that meeting. So if we're distracted in a meeting because we might be quickly scrambling through email threads or the last meeting minutes and action points to see where we're up to now in the current meeting, then you're more likely to present as distracted in the meeting. And then you're not able to be fully present and then interact with others. Another example of something that can cause a distraction is hunger. I don't know about all of you, but if I'm hungry, I feel like I don't get hungry. I just go from being full or just comfortable to being hungry. So I feel like I just go into full blown hungry mode. And if I go into a meeting where I might have had back to back meetings and then not, and then no, and then didn't have an opportunity to have even a small snack in between, then I've found that this is for myself, but you may be able to relate, that I found that for myself, if I go into a meeting and I'm already feeling hungry, or in my case, hungry, then I spend a lot of time fantasizing about what I'm going to eat when I do have the opportunity. So if my meeting, for example, is an 11 o'clock meeting with a 12 o'clock finish, then my mind will be consumed with thoughts of what am I having for lunch? I'm really looking forward to that. I'm really, really hungry at this point, and my, body's giving me the cues I'm hungry. So my mind's having these thoughts around food consumption. So then I would present as distracted in the meeting. So I'm sure that this is something that, as a fellow working mum who's always on the go, that you could probably relate to this. So try to prepare ahead of time is one way that you can maintain your connection with others and try and minimize some of those distractions. So for myself, something that I have implemented that I found really helpful is that I'll prepare all of my food for the next workday the evening before. So I'll have, my breakfast will be ready, snacks, lunch, it's all ready to go. My water bottle's already full, because another thing that distracts me is un a feeling of over a feeling of overwhelming thirst is something that also distracts me in meetings. So I make sure I have all this organized the day before, and I have a certain area in my fridge in which I store these items. So I have it all on the left side of my fridge, so I don't have to go rummaging through the fridge, where are my snacks? And then if I can't find my snacks readily, then I'm more likely to reach for something that is at eye level that I can find more easily, which could be something unhealthy, which is going to make me feel probably satisfied in the moment, but then it's not going to fill me up, and I might end up feeling a bit sick later, depending how much I've overdone the chocolate. So I like to have everything all together. And you can always get a large plastic container and put it in this area of the fridge and put all your stuff together. That way you can just pull out the container, take out your snacks, take them to your desk, or ideally actually eat away from your desk. But if that's not a possibility, bring it to your desk and eat it there. So minimizing these distractions is so important. So that's the first step. The second step is show. So this is how we actually demonstrate to others using things such as our open body language that we would like to connect with them. And engaging with people is really important, and not just via a device. In our online space, we so often connect with others using a device, which for myself, I work with professional women throughout Australia and hopefully overseas in the future. But for now, throughout Australia, so using a device is the sole way that I'm able to connect with my clients who don't live in the same city or town as myself. So then I would need to use various devices, phone, laptop, etc. Even me recording this, I'm using a device so we can have a virtual connection. In those cases, then we're still making an effort to make that connection. When I'm talking about making a connection with people and not just devices, I'm talking about in person. If there are opportunities to connect in person with, whether it's your friends, family, your colleague, peers, clients, then I encourage you to do so, because that's you showing that you generally value that connection with them, and then you're prepared to sort of go a little bit outside of your potentially your comfort zone if you're more comfortable in the virtual space, but also that you're prepared to go to that effort to connect with them. And when we are interacting with people in person or even online, it's important that we do put our devices away. So many times I haven't been out to dinner for a while with my family. We tend to eat at home, but when we do go out as a family, so often than not, I see, and this is no judgment if this is something that you do to keep dinners peaceful, but it just illustrates the point when I'm talking about the connection and disconnection discussion. So often I'll go out to dinner with my family, or even if I go out to dinner with a friend, and I'll see people out to dinner. It could be a couple on a date, or it could be a family with young children, and they're all on their devices. And no one's making eye contact with one another. They're not actually having a conversation. They're not discussing, the food and how nice it is to be out together. And I definitely understand. I'm a mum of two, so keeping especially young children quiet in a restaurant can be difficult. And sometimes I like to go old school. So with my youngest daughter and when my older daughter was younger, we would bring things such as, coloring books, pencils, and some restaurants have the white paper over the tablecloth, which is fantastic because we've been known to play noughts and crosses on the tablecloth. They just throw it out anyway. We've played, I Spy. Sometimes we play a game where you have to think of either an animal or a country starting with each letter of the alphabet. So sometimes we'll do that as well and just try to have a conversation. And sometimes we will always keep one menu back and we'll ask each other, what else would you order? What would you order next time? Or we'll go through whether it's the cocktail menu. Although, of course, I don't give my children alcohol, but sometimes we'll go through the cocktail menu or the desserts menu, say, oh, what do you like the sound of? As well as like a conversation starter. So while my daughters definitely do get their screen time, I'm not an anti-tech parent, but in restaurants, my husband and I don't allow them on their devices because we do want that connection. And that's why we've gone out to dinner all together, is so we can have that connection and in a different environment. So that's an example. So how you could show your connection with others when you're meeting with them, even an online meeting, would be that if someone's speaking and you're acknowledging what they're saying, you might sort of nod your head, maybe use a thumbs up emoji. Just when there's an appropriate time, you might ask a question and say, oh, just, really wanting to find out more about this, or you might then give them really positive feedback at the end, just saying, I've really found your idea helpful and it's something that I'm going to think about in my work or for my next client meeting, etc. And then moving on to the third step, which is simplified. So simplified, I like to keep things super simple. I like to keep things super simple. So if I can do something in less steps, less time, then I'll do it. And that's a huge reason why I do meal prep on a weekend or when I have a little bit of time off for our family. And then that way, during the busy work week, we've got at least I've made a huge start on the dinners. That's an example of how I like things simple. So some ways to keep things a little bit simpler so you are able to connect with others is to reduce distractions and any extra noise that is around. And sometimes having a break, stepping away from your computer, stopping the activity that you're currently doing, and having that break can help you then be able to connect or reconnect with nature and your environment. So in between meetings and most of my business, basically all of my business is virtual. So I'm always sitting behind a desk, whether I'm seeing clients directly or recording or I'm creating resources of content, etc., or sending emails. I'm behind a screen all the time. So for me, being able to actually reconnect with nature, because that's so important to me, is being outside, and physical exercise and movement are also huge, huge parts of my life. So being able to actually step outside, even if it's in my back garden, in between meetings, if I can take a walk. I often like walking with my family after dinner where we can connect as a family and I can walk off a bit of the dinner and get outside as well. That can also help clear your mind, which then when you return to your desk and you would tend to be more alert because then you've had that chance to sort of step away from that and then you're reconnecting with nature or something else that's really important to you. So you might step away from your desk or from whatever task you're doing, and you might do some quick exercises. One of the things I'm going to be implementing, and I was speaking to my amazing exercise physiologist the other day, but I'm going to be implementing some incidental exercise into my work day as well. So even if I've got 3 minutes in between meetings, I'm going to be implementing that to then allow me to then come into my next meeting or my next task feeling more connected and feeling a little bit more reinvigorated and energized. So they're the 3 steps. So just to go over those 3 steps to increasing your connection, they are: prepare. So what distractions can you remove, or can you predict things that may distract you, such as hunger, thirst, and really be prepared prior to entering that meeting or that conversation. The second one was show. So listen intently where you can, using some open body language, and how can you connect with others in person and not using a device if possible. The third one is simplify. So what simple additions can you add into your day, whether it's incidental movement or exercise, being with nature, so going for a short walk, clearing your mind, how these can help you increase your connection. I hope this has been helpful. If this has been helpful, I'd love you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can also follow me on Instagram. And this is just week 1 of our Aligned and Thriving 3-week series. And this week was all about connection. There's going to be other posts on my various social media channels on this topic this week. And then stay tuned for weeks 2 and 3. If this has been helpful and you would like to learn more about working with me, or if you have any suggestions for any future topics you'd like me to cover, you can send me a DM, or you can also send me an email. I'll put my email address in the description as well. Thanks so much for tuning in to week 1 of Aligned and Thriving.